Hey there, John Morris here, johnmorrisonline.com. Welcome back to the first episode of the show of 2019. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube at least, that things are a little bit different here. So you can see kind of behind me. For those you listen on the podcast, I'll try to describe it a little bit. But you can see behind me, I'm in my new house now finally. We're not done with it. You can see this sort of black beam thing up here. This is actually a beam that goes all the way across, and then above that is going to be a loft where the boys' bedroom will be, and then there's the same thing kind of right in front of me here where my wife and I's bedroom will be. So we're still working on getting those done. So for right now, we're in the beds that you can kind of see behind us. Davin's back there waving. But we are in the house finally. It's taken a lot of work to get to this point, so I'm kind of excited, and I've got my setup here where I kind of feel comfortable, where I can just kind of sit down and record like this. So hopefully going forward, we'll be doing more of these videos like this, and I can get back into doing some of the live streaming, maybe do the Friday Q&As. If that's something you guys are interested in, be sure to, if you're watching on YouTube, leave me a comment. If you're on the podcast, just shoot me an email, podcast@johnmorrisonline.com, and let me know if that's something you're interested in, which is the live Q&As that I used to do on Fridays. So, for me, again, it's been a lot of work getting to this point. This is a house that, we haven't hired a single contractor. I've kind of built this all myself with my little brother, who is the actual brains of the operation, who knows how everything works. But we've screwed every screw, we've pounded every nail, and so I'm really proud of what we've got to up to this point. And I'm really excited to get it kind of finished off. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of an update on that before I jump into what I wanted to talk about today. And what I want to talk about today is probably the hardest lesson that I've learned in 14 years as a freelance developer. And I wrote about this today, and I kind of want to go through that a little bit and then sort of get your guys' feedback. And I've sent out the email for the day already. And on my mailing list, which, by the way, you can go to johnmorrisonline.com. Right at the top there to get on my mailing list. But I've already had some really good feedback via email on this. And so, again, I just wanted to go through that here. So this is sort of what I said. So I've always been smarter than most people I know, which might sound arrogant, but it's something that I've always just sort of known. I was constantly told how smart I was growing up, all the things that I do with my life because of how smart I was, how easy I'd have it. And I think a lot of developers sort of deal with that. When you're someone who gets into web development, a lot of people believe that you have to be really smart to do it, even though I don't think that that's necessarily true. That's what most of the general public believes. So the people that then self-select to do what we do here tend to be people who've been told that same thing. So I find a lot of developers sort of feel that way. And I think that's maybe why this has resonated with people quite a bit here early on. So I was sort of told all of these things, how smart I was, how easy I'd have it. And after a while, I started to believe it. And I began to believe that being smart meant that I was destined to be successful, that one day, it just eventually would happen. But by the time I was 28 years old, it hadn't happened. And I was really frustrated about it. And I remember I would sit there and I would just sort of stew over it and think, how can all these dumb people be so successful? I'm so much smarter than all of them, and here I am broke. What is wrong with me? And I started to actually believe that I was cursed, that even though I was smart, there was something about me, my personality or something that just sort of meant that I was never going to make it. And it actually started to work against me. And a lot of this came down to arrogance too, right? When you've been told all your life that you're really smart, you just start to believe that you're always right when you deal with people, because a lot of times you are right? There's some objective fact to that, but again, it doesn't always mean that you're automatically going to be successful. Now, for me, I remember the night very vividly that I broke. I was in a New York City hotel. I was there for a mastermind, and I had felt like I played a pretty big role in making this mastermind happen, and it was a really big deal for this particular client of mine. And to their credit, they used sort of the relationship that I felt like I had built. They used it to leverage something that they really wanted to do. And I sat there and watched as they kind of made a bunch of money and profited off of it. And I felt like I was a big part of that, and I really got nothing out of it. In fact, I played errand boy the entire time that I was there. And I just felt like such a chump as this all sort of unfolded. And again, it's an extremely jaded view of what actually happened, right? But at the time, that's how I felt. And to make things worse, then I had to go to that client like even more of a chump, and I had to ask them for an advance on my per diem for that trip because I was so broke at the time. My wife had called me and said, "Hey, we're out of food. We have no money. Like, what are we supposed to do for the next few days while you were gone?" And so I had to kind of tail between my legs, go to my client, ask to get the advance on the per diem that they were going to pay me after the trip. And that was sort of the moment that everything kind of broke for me, because I'm a proud person who does not like to ask other people for help. I've always been that way. I'll be that way till the day I die. I'm very self-reliant. And so having to go to a client of mine and do that was a really big deal for me. And so it was kind of like all of that hit me at once, and I couldn't help it. I just started crying uncontrollably. And I was in the room with another developer for that client, and I just started crying uncontrollably in front of them. I was trying to hide it, but I was literally sobbing, and I know they noticed, but thankfully didn't really say much. But that was the day that I kind of said enough is enough. I was going to stop waiting for things to happen, and I was going to make it happen. And I was going to stop sitting around whining about, "Oh, I'm so smart, why can't I make it?" All of these things that I had in my head. And I started valuing hard work and persistence and patience over my own intelligence. I still knew that I was pretty smart. It's not like that goes away. But I knew that alone was not enough. And I had to do all of these other things that everybody else has to do. And so when I started doing that, that's when things kind of started happening for me. Now, I've recently come across this quote, and I posted this over on my Instagram. By the way, if you're on Instagram, I'm a lot more active over there. You can follow me at JohnMorris10 over there if you really want to see what goes on in my life on a day-to-day basis. But I posted this over there probably about a week or two ago now. But it's a quote from Calvin Coolidge, who was the 30th president of the United States. He said, "Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent." And for me, that hits hard, especially if I had heard this back when I was going through all of that. It really would have hit hard, because if you're someone who's always thought of yourself as smart and that your intelligence would carry the day, to realize that there's no guarantee that that it's not automatic that that's going to happen, that it's possible to be super smart and a complete failure. In fact, it's more than possible. It's common. Like, that realization can really hit hard. And so my point in all of this is this: how smart you are isn't as important as you think it is. And I know that you'll get the people that'll come out of the woodwork and start barking about statistics on IQ and all this, that, and the other. But as an individual, right, though that's trends, and I get it. But as an individual, it's not nearly as important as you think it is. And even if you're super smart, you're still going to have persistence, hard work, patience, and so forth. And it took me an emotional breakdown in a hotel 1,000 miles from home while my wife and kids went hungry for me to get that through my thick skull. So I'm begging you, please, please, please do not let it get to that point for you. You do not want to go there. And so as we roll into 2019, I just want to encourage you to make a commitment to make it happen, to forget about how smart you are. Yes, you're smart. Got it. Great. But that alone is not going to be enough. So forget about it, right? And embrace persistence, hard work, and patience. And don't wait around for your life to happen or assume that, "Oh, I'm smart, so one day it's going to happen." It won't. Not if you don't make it happen. So that's sort of my point or what I wanted to talk about for today. Of course, if you're a freelancer or web developer, I'm here to help. That's what I do, to take my 14 plus years of doing this and pass on to you what I've learned, so you don't have to go through what I did. And that's what my training curriculum does. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, MySQL, freelancing, WordPress, pretty much all of the main things that you're going to want to start off learning. It's all inside of there. And it's more than just, hey, here's how to learn this. It's the hard lessons like this that I've learned over the 14 years of doing this, sort of embedded inside of that. Anyway, you can get access to all of it without paying a single penny. All the details on that are at johnmorrisonline.com/Skillshare. But whatever you do, make a commitment to yourself to make 2019 the year that you make it happen and not sit around waiting for it to happen. All right, that'll do it for this episode. Thanks for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you next time.